Hi everybody, welcome to the Perkins webinar for how to do your FY16 application in Grantium. A lot of you are familiar with the Grantium interface from your work with the Tech Ed Equipment Grant the last 3 years, but we do have some new users. So I'm going to go quickly through some of the functionality that you're probably all used to so that we can get to the portions of the application that are new for all of you. I am going to be demonstrating the system logged into a test system that's a little bit slower than your production system. And I'm going to be logged in as Audrey Conrad working on her project, but it is a test project. So when Audrey listens to this video, I hope she's not concerned. This is not her real application. Okay? So after you've logged into the system, you'll see this front office portal that is showing on the screen right now. And I want to point out that every page in Grantium has instructions that we hope will be helpful to you. And on this front page there's a link to the applicant user guide, which I've asked you all to print out before this webinar. There's a frequently asked question document as well, and there's also a link to a tutorial that walks through basic steps, and that's only a 5-minute tutorial that would be a good refresher if you get lost. Words that are bolded, I'm hoping will help you find where you need to go as quickly as possible. So you would start by clicking on the submission link. But before I get going on this, I just want to talk about the frequently asked question. Number 1 is, why do I keep getting notifications for things that I don't care about? And if you are receiving notifications from Grantium for funding opportunities that you do not concern yourself with, I want to point you to the user guide on page 9 in your user guide for helpful hints on how to work with your email support team on filtering the notifications so that you only see the ones that you care about. And the key words for you in your funding opportunities that I know of is your projects will begin with PERK, P-E-R-K for Perkins, and T, Tech Ed Equipment for your Tech Ed Equipment grants. So use those key words to filter your notifications. And now we're going to get started on locating your project. Oh, first off, I want to point out that there's a contact us link here, and this is containing who you contact for which type of question. The main thing that I want to point out here, that is, if you have a Grantium non-specific program, non-finance specific question, then the quickest way to get Grantium type of support is to click on this email here. If you have program specific questions, your contact information is listed here, and the finance contacts are listed here. This we will keep up to date with who the latest contacts are. But the best way and fastest way to get Grantium specific support is to email this link, and that will go to a team of people that monitor that email. And you get out of this window by clicking X. So the first thing you will do is click on your submission link, as stated in bold in the first paragraph. And this is where you're going to go to find your project. And again, I'm on a test system that is a little bit slower. I'm also logged in as a user who is associated with multiple applicants in Grantium. And I'm using terminology that is very specific to Grantium because I want you to get used to that. It's something that you see all the time when you're using Grantium. And this terminology is described as in the user guide starting in page 5. So once I've clicked on submission, I see a submission list over on the right side for the applicant that is selected in the drop-down up above. If you are only associated with one applicant, this will not be a drop-down. I need to, for the Perkins grant, go to the Oxbow applicant because that is who receives the funds. If you don't find your project in the applicant that's selected, then try the other one. The All Project filter here, when you click on that, it will show you the projects that are associated with the applicant that you selected. The Perkins project will begin with the phrase PERK and end in FY16. So I am going to, that's the project I want to work on. I am going to select that, click Filter, and now my list is much easier to manage. Every time I log in again, I will only have what my last filter held. If you want to work on something else, change your filters. So I'm going to open up this grant application by clicking on the orange folder in the Action tab. This is going to bring me to a Start Here page that I'm going to check just to make sure that I've opened up the correct project, because if I selected the wrong project, there will be things that won't make sense to me. So as soon as this is open, I'll show you the things that I would like you to check on. Slow, slow, slow. Production is much faster. Lucky you guys. Okay, the Start Here page is going to show me what I'm working on. And if you're working on multiple applications, you'll see that this is something that you want to check. And so I'm working on my initial application for the Perkins grant. Other information here is my applicant name, my project name. If I don't have Save buttons active on this page, then I've opened up a project that's already been submitted and it's in read-only option, and so I've opened up the wrong project. I would go back to the submission list and try and open up the project again. But in this case, I opened up the correct project. The Perkins funding opportunity supports entry of indirect charges. This link here will bring you to a document that explains the indirect charges. This is also documented in the user guide, and so that would be something for you to look at for if your business office wants you to budget for indirect. Budgeting for indirect will come off of your allocation, and it allows you to use those funds for anything. What you've earned in indirect will be based on the budget that you enter for your program. And so as you're entering your program budget, you're earning more indirect, and your business office may want you to maximize the indirect you earn and budget to that. And if that's what they want you to do, I would suggest turning this on to yes, because that will activate additional logic that will help you maximize your indirect budget. And it will turn on different things. On this page, you should also put in the tech center that you're doing this application on behalf of. I want to point out that any field with a question mark, when you click on the question mark, you'll get additional help on that field. I saved data on this page, so I'm going to go Save and Next. This brings me to the contact information page. What's highlighted in dark on the left is the page that I'm on. You can also navigate to the pages with the buttons in the bottom. Required fields have asterisks. On this page, you have to enter in your contact information. For most of you, this was probably preloaded with the information from the Tech Ed Equipment Grant done last year. And we will preload this every year with the information we had last year, but this is why you need to review it every year and change it and click this button here that's required. The information above is usually the person who can sign the awards in the fiscal contact. That's read only. Sometimes you're the first ones that will alert us to those people changing. So if you know that that's changed, please click on this link here, and that will send an email where you can tell us the information above has changed, and we will initiate the change process there. So on the contact information page, you need to make sure that you have your contact information entered and you've checked this button and you click the Save and Next button to move on. Your application overview page is a read-only page that shows you your allocation and your anticipated award, and that is based on the budget that I've already entered in this application, which gives me an opportunity to say that you do not have to complete your application in one sitting. You can go back to your submission list, log out, come back another day and complete your application. And it's when you're all done that you would submit it. So there's some more budgeting that I would want to do in this application because I have a remaining of $40,000. I'm going to click over here to show that you can navigate with the buttons at the bottom as well as the links on the left. The assurance page are the assurances that you have to agree to. You have to check this button that says you've agreed to it and click Save and Next to continue. The work plan page is something that's new for you. Well, actually this whole application is new for you. It contains instructions in the top for entering your work plan. And Doug is going to talk about the work plan while I demonstrate an entry of an item. There is already one item that's been entered in this work plan, and let me just show that for you by clicking on this view icon, and this will allow you to edit this item. And basically all I did for this item for this testing purposes is I selected project 1. You're allowed to do up to 5 projects, and I copied and pasted the instructions into each section as to what is expected. And in particular, the activities, Jay is looking to have you listing your activities one by one, including what it will do and who it's going to be done by, and then in the estimated date indicate, a numbered list of when it's going to be done. If I change data on this item, I have to save it, and I'm going to save and add another, and we'll have Doug walk us through what he might expect for us to put in on a project.
Okay, I got to qualify this, but this is the first time I've seen this.
Oh, okay.
But we've seen plenty of grants over the years. And want to highlight that, I see that. I have mine on here. What I want to highlight is that the projects, they used to be called sub-grants. So just think of them as the same. And you said there's 5 projects?
There's up to 5 projects currently. We started with 3, but Jay incremented it to 5 based on some feedback he got from the field.
Yeah, and also just want to highlight the consortium project has to be on its own. It can't be included in another project.
So what would you do is you would make that as a project 2 and say consortium project?
Yes,
okay.
Consortium project. The other thing I want to highlight too is that there's been a lot of requests for consortium numbers. As of right now, we don't have those numbers yet. We're asking the people that know this information to provide that to us as soon as possible. Also want to just go down through the list here. We're dealing with the objectives. That should be a brief narrative. And it's kind of like a combination of planned activities and describing the project. We just want to make sure that you include the focal measures to be addressed in that one, similar to what we used to ask in the previous format. As far as the rationale for the objective, just a brief narrative, why you intend to do the project. If there are a number of reasons, go ahead and bullet them, number them that way. Moving on to evidence to measure objectives. Keep in mind that we monitor these, and we need to be able to verify that certain things are happening. So please be as descriptive as you can be, and as quantifiable as you can be. Next thing I want to talk about here briefly is the activities in support of the objective. Again, identify, we prefer a bulleted list, the major tasks that you are to take on as part of the project. And let's see, is there anything else here?
I think an activity he wants to know who it's going to be done by.
Yeah, we don't have that listed anywhere here, but we do want to know who is responsible. And I talked to a lot of directors about this. We used to have who is responsible, and that was it. It comes down to we want to know who is being paid in this particular project. So if you have a director who is ultimately responsible, but they're not getting paid, but somebody else is, we'd rather know about who is getting paid. We need to verify whether or not there's plant issues and other things. So that's not all I have to say about that until questions.
Okay, well, actually, you're supposed to, in the anticipated completion date, put in the anticipated completion date for each of the activities that you've listed above. It is a required field. I'm going to leave this blank to demonstrate something else later, okay? And because I've entered data, I'm going to go save and back to list. What's important for you to know about this is that you need to enter the work plan for your projects before you go in and enter your budget, because when you enter the budget, you're going to select the project that the budget is for. And so one needs to be done before the other. And I'm going to take us off mute now, so if there's any questions about the work plan, we'll take those now.
All participants are unmuted. Hand raising is off.
Hello, everybody. Okay, Joe.
I want to know whether somebody is going to provide taxpayers with language for the consortium project.
Yes. That will be provided when we get the numbers.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? Perfectly clear, huh?
Another question. When will you be expecting those numbers?
Any minute now. We just put out an email this morning to the parties who know the answer to this. So hopefully we'll get it sooner than later.
Okay, I have one more question. Strategic again. Regarding your project and putting down the people who are going to be paid, by the time we do our plan, we may have some people that we don't know who are going to fill roles. We don't know who those people are necessarily. So how do we handle that?
Yeah, we understand that. That's the way it's always been. So do the best you can, and we'll go from there. If we have questions, we'll get a hold of you.
Okay, thank you.
Question here. Joe, do you have your retirement question answered?
Not yet. I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
We'll be talking about the retirement contribution question when I get into the budget entry. When I get into the next page and enter the program activities and budget, I have on my list of things to talk about the retirement contribution. It is not a separate project. Okay, you enter your projects the way you would normally enter it. It's when you're getting into entering the contribution, you will refer it back to a specific project, but you're not going to have a separate project for retirement contribution.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions about the work plan? And we'll move on and we'll get more in depth on this retirement contribution. Is that it? Okay, I'm going to mute everybody now. I want to point out that Sean is monitoring the chat session, so you can send some chat questions to him too.
All participants are muted. All participants are muted and may not unmute themselves. Hand raising is on.
Okay, next page that you would do after you've entered your work plan and your projects is you want to enter the budget for that. And you would do that under the program activity and budget page. There are instructions at the top. There's a grid that shows you where you are in your budget entry. I have not done any admin activities yet. And because I said yes on my Start Here page for assistance in maximizing my indirect earned, I see this row for indirect earned. If you do not have an indirect rate, you will not see that. If you said no to that question on asking for help for maximizing indirect, you will not see that row as well. You can always go back to the Start Here page and turn that logic on. The first thing you would do would be to add a item to your budget, and you need to reference the work plan. When you click on the plus sign to add an item to your budget, the source is always Perkins. There's nothing in the drop down. The work plan drop down will contain the list of the work plans that you entered. So most of you it'll be budgets, projects 1, 2, or 3. For a few, I guess you may have more. I'm going to do a budget for my project 2. My strategy is going to be these required and permissive uses, or if I'm going to do my retirement contribution. For the required or permissive uses, there is a document over here on the left that you can download that will give you more information about those things. But those should feel familiar to you. Those came from the old Perkins application. I'm going to do professional development, and I'm going to make this salaries, and I'm going to put in 50,000. And in the description, I am going to put in not for retirement contribution, because what's going to happen with the retirement contribution is finance is going to be looking at all the budget lines that are for salaries, and they'll be looking for a budget line that is for retirement contribution if that salary that you're budgeting is for someone that is participating in the Vermont Retirement Fund. If it's not someone that's participating in it, then they do want you to, in the description, identify that you know that it's not someone that's in the retirement fund. And so they'll be looking for something in the description that will quickly tell them that they don't have to worry about looking for a retirement contribution for this salary. And then you just put in some more information about that description. And then I would save and add another. Well, actually, I'm going to go save and back to list. Oh, I added too much money. Well, we'll fix that. So here I have a salary that I entered previously. I did not put in the phrase not for retirement funding. And it's because I know that whoever is going to be doing that salary, and this is something you're going to have to know, whoever that salary is for, if they are part of the Vermont retirement system, we want you to budget a line specifically for that retirement contribution. The reason why we're doing this is I'm going to show you this memo that hopefully you all have seen, but your business office has. The state is requiring this year, and this is something new, which is why we're putting it right out there in front of you in budgeting so that you're aware of this, is that we want employees that are part of the Vermont retirement system who are being funded with federal dollars to have that contribution taken out of that federal dollar. We know this means less money for the program, but the purpose that the reason why the legislators made this change is they feel it's necessary to ensure that the retirement system is fairly and adequately funded. So we have implemented their desire in Grantium with the ability for you to budget for the retirement contribution. It comes off of your allocation. It shouldn't be lumped into as benefits because finance is going to be looking for something specifically for the retirement contribution and wanting to have an awareness that you're aware of that. So this email is available, this memo is up there on the AOE website, and if you have any questions about why we're doing this, please refer to that memo, talk to your business office, and Aaron Brodeur here at the AOE will provide any required assistance as well. Along with the retirement contribution of the 12.84% that you have to do this year, and I understand that that percentage may change every year. It's being set by the Treasurer's Office. There is also a new requirement that we're calling the OPEB requirement, and that's listed in the second paragraph here, the third paragraph here, where any new people joining the state retirement system after July 1 has to pay this OPEB charge of you have to budget for $1,097. So if your salary is for a new person, you'll have to also budget for this OPEB amount, and that stands for Other Post-Employment Benefit. And so you need to first understand, is the salary for someone that's in the system, is it that person's new? And then based on those answers to those two questions, you will have to budget accordingly. So I'm going to assume that this salary here that I budgeted for 37 is for the retirement system, because I said not for the retirement fund in the other one. And so actually, why don't I go in here and lower this amount so that I'm not negative here. When you edit an item, you have to unlock it, and I'm just going to bring this amount down to $5,000. That's not a very good salary. I hope you're all doing better than that. And saving back to list. And so now I have some money remaining to budget. So I'm going to add in a retirement contribution for the salaries that I put into the first line. I'm going to click on the plus sign to add a new one. It's going to be associated with a project. The strategy will be this OPEB retirement contribution. The method that I would put in would be either retirement contribution or OPEB, depending on which one I'm budgeting. I'm going to do the budgeting for the retirement, and I'm not going to do the math. I'm just going to put in $100. But you'll have to do the math to make sure you did that 12.84%. And I'm going to save and add another, because I know that this person is new to the retirement system. So I better, did I hit save and add another? So I better also put in my OPEB contribution. You wouldn't necessarily have to do this OPEB contribution for people that have been in the retirement. You won't have to do it for people that have been in the retirement system already. These are just for new people, and the amount this year is $1,097. So because this retirement contribution is new for folks, this is why we're sort of putting it out there in your budget planning purposes to make you aware of it. And you'll notice it's money that's off the top. It's coming off your allocation. I have some remaining here which I can use for other purposes within the budgeting, for what I need for my project. And just going through, let me just add another item to show. Let me do a project 2. Again, you have permissive and required uses. Why don't I just do this? And you have your codes here. I'm going to do supplies and materials. And those are pretty expensive pencils. I don't think Doug would approve this particular budget line. You would? Okay. Anyway, this is for demonstration purposes only. And as you can see, each time I enter a budget line, I'm earning indirect because I have an indirect rate, and I still have some remaining. My goal, because my business office wants me to maximize my indirect, is to budget so that my indirect earned is as close as possible to the total remaining without going over. And that's how you maximize your indirect. Just because you earn indirect, though, you don't have to take it. Please take that direction from your business office. But moving on, the work plan summary page summarizes by project how much is been put in here. So this would be a quick way of checking that if you have to spend at least $50,000 in a project, or if there's some kind of program rules on amounts to budget for a project, then this would be a quick way of checking that. The strategy summary gives you the information by the different strategies. These are read-only lists, but just like any list in Grantium, there's an export button at the top that you can export this data, and it goes into a CSV file which you can use for any purposes. I want to point out that that also exists on the budget page. You can export what's here, and if you have an external finance system or whatever that you would like to put that data into, this would be how you would create that export file. Under administrative activities is where I would enter any direct admin, and let me put in some direct admin. Any direct admin that you enter and any program activities budgets that you enter earn the indirect. And so this number has been increasing as I've done that budget entry. When I want to budget that indirect, I would put the number here. This number should not exceed what you've earned, or you won't be able to submit. I don't have to take what I've earned, and if I'm not going to, I need to check here. We definitely want you to consciously tell us you're not taking the indirect that you earned. Again, you're only earning indirect if you have an indirect rate. If you want an indirect rate and you don't have one, then you contact your fiscal contact person and they'll arrange with AOE for that. If you know that you should have one and it's not there, you should probably contact them as well to make sure that they get it assigned, because that gets assigned for every fiscal year. The application attachment page contains instructions. It also contains your specific improvement plan. The instructions tell you to download that plan, fill it in, and attach the filled in plan. So it contains the information that you would normally have sent via an email, but we want you to download it here. So you would download this, save it somewhere, do whatever you needed to do to fill that out, and then when you're done filling that out, you would click on that next attachment link and navigate to where you have that file. The document description is required, so please make sure you put something in there. I'm not going to click this again because this, I think, is already showing, and it's going to eventually pop up. There we go. I'm just going to throw anything in there. Believe me, the people that are reviewing your application will make sure that you've attached the correct attachment. Grantium does not know. But that would be how you would attach your completed improvement plan, as you would navigate to the location where it exists. There's also instructions that are to please attach the minutes of the RAB, where the Perkins plan was discussed, you would go to the next available attachment plan line and attach that. Once you've done everything and you've completed your budget entry and you've completed all of the required field, your submit button will be active. I left a few things blank so that we can show you what needs to be done. There's notes here that says I have one incompleted item. I'm going to click on that link and it's going to bring me to the item that I did not complete, and here's a required field that I did not estimated done. This here, they're looking for a date for when this is done. Because I made a change, I'm going to go save and back to list. Now on my submission summary page, I still need something to do here. What did I forget? I didn't think I forgot anything. Oh, I didn't put in a description. On this page, you have to unlock it to edit the activity. It opens up in read only. And then I'm going to put in the description of what the salary is for. Again, this is something that you need to put in that will match what Doug would want to see.
So this is where you put the name of the person.
If that's what you want them to do, you can. This is another place to do it.
Well, not knowing how it shows up,
Yeah, this is another place to do it.
I cannot make a decision.
Okay.
But you don't want them reading.
Well, no, there's no reason. No,
Entering
No.
data all over the place.
no.
So one place is fine, as long as we can see it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Whatever. You've heard Doug's thing. His answer to his previous question. Okay. So I entered data here, so I must remember to go to the bottom and hit save and back to the list. I've resolved all of the conditions that I need to resolve, and my submit button is active. As soon as I submit, this becomes read only and I cannot change it, and it goes into the queue to be reviewed. So make sure that you are really done before you hit submit. Jane will have to reopen it for you if you aren't done and you submit it early. I want to point out that on the attachment page, the only one that's required is the first one, so we will allow you to submit without really an attachment, without the completed attachment. And so you will have to make sure that you've put in those attachments that are required. And we have no way of checking that you didn't put in a picture of a puppy instead of the completed work plan. So make sure you attach the correct thing. There's also nothing in Grantium that's going to stop you from submitting before you budget all of your money. So make sure that you really truly want, your goal is for this probably to be down to 0 before you do a submit. So check that. And I am now going to open this up for additional questions.
All participants are unmuted. Hand raising is off.
How's everybody doing?
What are your questions?
I have a question on the attachment that Jay sent around our performance and target. And doesn't directly talk about the Grantium, but our numbers look very high, and I'm wondering if that's a state or if that's a black line on attachment B.
Yeah, I don't know what you're looking at, but if you have a specific question about data, I've been receiving a few here and there, and then I go and try to find out what the answer is. So just send me an email, Doug.Webster, and I'll get an answer for you on that. If you have any questions on your data.
I think you made a point, though, that I'd like to stress, is Grantium doesn't handle everything that you might have to do for the Perkins grant. It just handles the application. And if there is some monitoring, is this a monitoring report or a final report or something?
This is information that they use to generate their improvement plans of their projects.
Yeah, that may not be in Grantium, so that would have been something Jay would have sent you separately. So there may be some things that are still external, and I think you just brought that up.
Yeah, I have a question under the program activity and the budget.
Go ahead.
So, just to be clear, I have project one, I have salaries, and let's just say 37,000. Underneath that, project one, then I do a retirement contribution, and I put that in. And then underneath that, I have another line for project one, which is going to be contribution, and that may take care of project one. Is that correct?
That's true. And you only need to do that if you know that salary is for someone in the retirement system. So if you're going to be lumping a couple of people together in that salary budget line, and some of them are and some of them aren't part of the retirement system, your retirement contribution only needs to be for those that are.
Correct, thank you.
Okay.
I have a follow-up. We do the 12.8% for all of our folks who are already in retirement, and we do the 1907 for new people, you said, but how new is new? I saw somewhere under 5 years, but is it that or is it brand new?
I don't know exactly that question. The number is 1097, and it's for people who I'm looking at the memo and I'm showing that now. It's for people who become employees who become members of the system on or after July 2015. And it looks like it's an annual assessment that they're going to have to pay. I don't know if there's a limit to that annual assessment. You may have heard 5 years. I don't know where you heard that. This memo from Rebecca does say that annual assessment could change every year. And I think the person to really answer that question for you is Aaron Broder, or your business manager. Who's asking the question?
Sherry.
Okay, Sherry. So it would be your business manager or Aaron Broder, but it's a very good question. It's not for somebody who's already in the system. I guess the whole purpose of this is to just make sure that you're aware that this is a new responsibility for the districts on how to spend the federal dollars. And there was a lot of discussion about how to make it easier for you to build that awareness. And this awareness that needs to be built is not just in the Grantium system, but any grant application anybody does on federal dollars that could even be outside of Grantium. So the agency is changing even their process for those applications that are outside of Grantium to help you build the awareness of this. Any other questions? Grantium has the ability to amend any award any number of times. What you would do is you would send an email to, you can't have an amended award until you have an approved award. So as soon as you have an approved award, you will see that approved award on the front office. If you want to amend that, you would get in touch with Jane, and she would open it up for you to submit Amendment 1 if it's your first amendment. And then that goes through the same review process as the original application. It becomes an approved amendment, which you can then later amend again if you want, and this time it'll be Amendment 2. It's very similar to the manual amendment process, but it's all done inside Grantium, with everything being electronic and people being reminded that they have things to do.
Yeah, but it sounds like we're going through a doubling process here. It has to go to Jane, and Jane has to let us know.
No.
We have to approve that, and then she can open it up.
No,
and then we get.
no.
have to
All
close
she
it.
does
So
is
we're first
all she
close.
does is open it up again, and they make their changes, and you then approve the changes just like you did the original
Okay.
original
So
application.
Pre-approval.
There's no pre-approval. There is, it's all electronic with the workflow taking care of making sure people that need to do the review. Now, when that amendment comes to your review step to look at, if you're not happy with what they've done, then it would be sent back to them to revise it until you would approve it. So it goes through the same review process as your original application, only it's for an amendment.
Okay.
I have another question, Doug. Also, we were told that a summer project, a math and CTE, a summer project, we had to spend some of our purchase money on that. And so I assume that that's a separate project that we list that under. But we also don't know for sure, from the last director's meeting anyway, whether some of the money for, say, food, stipends, I don't know, whatnot, is going to come from the state, and what is the amount that we have to spend for our staff members. So Doug, maybe you could elucidate us on that.
Yeah, the update is waiting for a number. And I believe Jay is working on that number with all the parties involved.
Okay, so with the due date for submission of this grant being May 15, are we going to be a little liberal then on that being and some flexibility? Because
Yeah.
it's not like these numbers are here yet.
Yeah, definitely.
There's nothing in the Grantium system that's going to enforce that due date. That is a date that is put out there by the program team. So it is nothing that requires you to do anything special in Grantium to extend the time. There's no additional work there.
Good. Yeah, Joe, we'll be flexible on that.
I guess one more question is just if I make a mistake and really screw this up, I suppose the first dude reviewing it's going to call me and tell me I need to make changes, right?
Yes.
I don't know. Will we be calling? Because this is the review process here. I've never done it before, but my understanding is.
Well, let me tell you how different program people do it in DOE, okay? When someone, and it will be how you want to do it, Doug, okay? It will be, it could be a letter that goes out to them with all of the revisions. It could be a message that goes into their notification that they get when it's reopened as to what revisions that you want. You could put those revisions that you want in your comments on your review page, and Jane can copy and paste that into the message that goes out to them from Grantium. Or it could be the message that you want that goes into that notification could be per our phone conversation. So it's however you want to conduct the review. Regardless of how you want to share that information, and you have multiple ways of doing it, and what's required is the application needs to be reopened because it's only in read mode at that time for them, and then they would open it up again and do the required changes, submit it again, and it comes into the review process again.
And for them to reopen it,
and it takes Jane all of 2 seconds to do it.
So it's between myself, Jane, and the director.
Yes, if that's how you want to do it. And as soon as you tell Jane that you're not approving it as it is, she gets notified that that's automatically will be notified that that's the case, and we'll reopen it for them. And on that reopen, they get notified. So if you want to have a chit chat with them before that, there's nothing to stop that.
Okay. Sounds good.
As you can see, Doug hasn't been trained yet on his steps in Grantium. It's because it'll take all of 20 minutes for me to train you on what you have to do in Grantium. The rest of it is just how you want the program to be
Well,
conducted.
this is the first time, so
Right.
obviously you're going to have questions about everybody's part.
Right.
So, good. Any other questions?
Well, thank you, everybody. We're ending 10 minutes early. Very cool. Enjoy that 10 minute. Yep, bye-bye.